Hello everyone and welcome to Bobbin's Minecraft Let's Play featuring the Infinity Evolved Skyblock mod pack. You're watching episode 5 and today we're going to set up Forestry Farms and some power gen from them, which probably won't be a whole lot just to start, but it's going to be very expandable. This is actually going to be my power solution up until the point where I go nuclear, and even after I go nuclear I will still depend on this system for certain types of power. What makes this system nice compared to what the online book recommends, if you were to go in here and look at the guide and look at tech tree, and it talks about upgrading power, and then it goes into water wheels, and I think it suggests, yeah, it says you could go with a wind power setup. It's actually kind of suggesting some passive power there. The problem in my experience with this particular passive power is that it just takes a lot of space. The forestry farms do have an advantage over it. Even though they take up even more space, they produce a lot more power and resources in that space. So I'm going to go ahead and use this for power. And what I'm going to set up here is I'm going to set up 2 forestry farms, and they are both going to be minimum sized forestry farms. For the most part, I'm going to assume that most people watching this don't have a lot of experience with forestry farms, or if they do, that it's not very recent, because I have never noticed in any of the video series that I've watched that these are very popular systems. The first thing I'm going to do, mostly just so I can get it out of my inventory, is on this one over here, which is the tree farm. I've actually got it configured as a tree farm using this circuit board. I'm going to put an extra utility chandelier under it. What this does is it prevents mob spawning within a 16 block radius. And the reason I'm doing that on the tree farm specifically is that while you've seen me so far control mob spawning using slabs and lighting, and that is normally how I do it, the problem with a tree farm is that you often have trees in a partially deconstructed state, so they don't have leaves on top of them. They've got wood blocks that are exposed to the sky. They're potentially dark, and so mobs can sometimes spawn in a tree farm even though you've done your best to control it by putting lights all around the edge or something like that. You just can't light the center well enough to make sure that nothing like that ever happens. So the chandelier will do that for this. Alright, so the next thing to do is I've already sort of set this one up, so I'm just going to show the various parts of it. The forestry farm is itself a multi-block structure. It's a big cuboid structure. In this case, this is the smallest one, and it's 3 by 3 by 4, meaning it contains 36 blocks. If it is correctly configured, it will show this horizontal band on the third block up from the bottom. It consists entirely of these blocks right here called farm blocks, with certain types of accessory blocks like the hatch, the gearbox, the valve, and the control. And these accessory blocks can be placed anywhere, I think, except on that band or in the center. So you build this big multi-block structure, and it wants to lay out a farm in a particular pattern based on its size. The 3 by 3 by 4 one that I've got here is the smallest available size, and it will set out its farm blocks on this platform that I've set up here. This platform is the precise size that's needed. It's a 7 block radius out from the center, with the edges sort of put in diagonally like that. This particular platform, it does have to be present, and it does have to be made from certain blocks. The blocks that are allowable here, the cheap ones, are things like sandstone and these particular bricks. I think it can be made from, well, why don't I just check? If I just put in farm here, maybe it will go, if I go into the recipes, it'll show which ones it can use. Okay, stone bricks, mossy stone bricks, cracked stone bricks, bricks, various kinds of sandstone, nether bricks, chiseled stone bricks, quartz and chiseled quartz. So a variety of different blocks. The quartz is obviously a pretty extravagant one to use for this purpose because you're going to need quite a few of them. Those blocks are used in the construction of the farm blocks themselves, and they're used in the platform. I don't think that they have to match in type. I think you can mix and match them, but I haven't verified that. So it consists entirely of these farm blocks with the accessory blocks. What the accessory blocks do is the farm gearbox is where it accepts power. The hatch is where it inputs and outputs items. The valve is where it inputs and outputs fluids. Actually, I guess it only inputs fluids. It only inputs water. And the control is in principle where you go to control it and you use this thing. As a practical matter, I think you can click anywhere on this and it will bring up the control interface. So I don't know that the control is needed for that purpose, but the block will not form without a control. So once you've got all this stuff in place, you just have to supply it with everything. It's relatively complicated compared to most other farms. You have to supply water, fertilizer, then whatever seeds and saplings, and for the tree farm it's going to need a continuous supply of dirt, and during operation it converts dirt into sand. And that's one of the reasons why I have two farms set up here rather than just the tree farm, because I have to supply it with dirt. And while this does output saplings, as I mentioned in the last episode, it outputs forestry saplings. And unfortunately, the forestry saplings, although they're sort of functionally the same as their equivalents from vanilla, they're not actually the same, and you can't run them through the composter to produce dirt. So this one, because it's an arboretum, will produce logs. It will produce sand because of that particular output I was just telling you about. And if you plant it with some sort of fruit tree, like oaks, for example, which produce apples, then it will produce an appropriate fruit. So I'll have apples as an output as well. I have to supply it with fertilizer, dirt, and water, and power. So quite a bit of inputs and some outputs. The recipe for these is each farm block, and I'm going to need 36 of them, is going to require 36 wood planks and 36 copper ingots and 36 of some sort of an appropriate building block for this. In this case I'm using stone bricks. And then it's going to require 36 tin Electron tubes. And so that's the recipe right there, and I'll just go ahead and make 36 of these. Now 4 of these will get made into the accessory blocks. And oh, I already forgot something here. I'm supposed to have some tin gears and I don't see them. Let me run downstairs quickly and see if I've got 10 gears. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I had the 10 gears the whole time. I was just too blind to see them. So 3 tin gears under a farm block to make a farm gearbox, 2 tin gears and a trap door under a farm block to make a farm hatch, 1 tin gear and a couple of glass. I definitely don't have glass in there. Let's come down and get some glass. This should be quick, so no need to cut. Got the glass. Alright, so that'll make the farm valve. And then for the last one I need a couple of redstone and another item that I didn't bring up here, a gold electron tube. Now the electron tubes were made in this thermionic fabricator over here. I've made a bunch of them that I need. I made more gold than I actually did need, but I made all of the tin ones for 2 of these things, and they're not horribly expensive as long as you're not using something like diamonds, but resources are still a little scarce, so I've had some kind of scares on shortages of redstone and copper and things for a while. Okay, so this makes the farm control. Now to actually set this up, I just need to put it in. And I like to go ahead and control these from the bottom. You can control them from the top too. I like to control them from the bottom, and allowing for the fact that there's going to be a layer of dirt up here. If I set this up one block higher than the level of the platform, then it will be flush with the top. So that's what I'm going to do. You can actually do quite a bit with it in terms of how you set these up. It's all on the wiki for forestry. So to some extent here you're seeing my personal preferences, so just keep that in mind. Alright, we'll put these in there. And I think because I'm going to be running the water up at a higher level on this one, I'm going to go ahead and tell it to, I'm going to put the valve maybe here. Then fill in the rest of this level. Then the power output, which is, or the power input, which is the gearbox, and the hatch, which is the item output, I need to put on the bottom level. I'll put them here and here, and I guess I'm going to have to break all these chests and move them. I don't have a dolly yet. The dolly is very expensive in this particular setup. And I'll just put the control on this final corner. And that gets all the blocks in place. Now if I check here, I do have the band. Check for the band, even though it's normally covered in at the particular height that I put this, and to make sure that your multi-block formed okay. I think if you click it and it doesn't open, it will give you some message saying why it didn't form. Now there's nothing in here telling it to control. It may default to a managed arboretum, but I go ahead and put that in there. So to actually configure it in a particular way, you need a circuit board. I've got one that I've already configured for orchard. The way that you configure these circuit boards is in a soldering iron. You do that by putting a circuit board in right here, then picking the particular type of machine that you're configuring. Electric engine is the first one here. We're obviously not doing that. Electrical stimulator, we're not doing that. Machine upgrade, not doing that. Okay, managed farm, this is what the arboretum was, where it's going to be doing the trees. And then what you would do, and what I actually did on that one, was you put in appropriate electron tubes in each of these slots. You need to go ahead and use the gold circuit because it's got 4 slots, and that's what you're expecting to do. For the managed arboretum, it required copper electron tubes, so I just put one in each one of these slots, and instantly that circuit moves down here, and it's configured. Manual farm is the next one that's unmanaged. This is what I did for the one that we're setting up, and this also took copper, but on the manual farm, the copper electron tube means orchard, which, as I explained in the last episode, maybe it's not really an orchard, but that means to effectively do a right click on the things to harvest the items. Okay, so manual farms orchard on this. When I put this in, I won't be able to pull it back out again. So this is now permanently an orchard. I think you can, oh, it does say removable with a soldering iron, so maybe you can remove it. But I've now set up this multi-block, and I've configured it for a manual orchard, which means that I will be responsible for placing all the dirt on the top of it, as well as any water blocks that are needed in order to get it to function. So why don't I do that? Let's see. I do have water set up over here. Can I? Yeah. And I have dirt over here. So it's time, that's the tree one. So I'm just going to set up these dirt blocks everywhere except where I'm going to put water. The water is actually going to go where the torches are. I believe that will have everything within range of water. 1, 2, 3, 4, so... And things do need to be in range of water. Same rules for anywhere else you would be setting up agricraft crops, which is what's going to happen here. Because it is a manual farm, the farm itself won't care. If it was not a manual farm, if it was a managed farm, the farm will put down the water blocks that it deems desirable, which I actually find a pretty wasteful use of the available farm space because it doesn't put them down in a completely optimal arrangement, but it does work. Alright, and I'm going to have to worry about mob spawning. Probably around the edges. Well, I'm too close for them right now. I'll just have to think about what to do on that. I could put another chandelier underneath this one. I don't want to do that. I really consider the chandelier to be maybe just a little bit cheaty. I don't mind so much doing it on a tree farm because there really is nothing you can do to handle that other than just let mobs spawn, I guess, and I'm certainly not going to do that because I'd be coming up here and getting blown up by a creeper every time I turned around. So let's see if I can maybe rearrange these torches to avoid mob spawning while I figure out what I'm going to do about mob spawning. Alright, looks like we're okay. I don't see where I brought any more light sources up here, and I'm out of torches. I think I'm going to come over here and get some more glowstone nooks and just put them around the perimeter there. I may have some in here. Yeah. And maybe put them in each one of these corners as you go around the edge. Can't really quite see where I'm placing it because I arranged these so that they hang out just a little bit. I wanted to make sure that I had enough space on the platform for two of them. Alright, now with that in place, if I come up here and put nooks on these corners, I bet it will cover the whole platform. Looks good. Time to till the soil. Incidentally, one of the things that we can do here, since we manually control the soil by placing it ourselves, when I decide to plant some sugarcane up here, I can just pull up some of the soil and put sand down instead, and the farm won't care in the least. Alright. Let's try one little thing here. I want to be able to get up just to the top of that without actually having to go and pull up a dirt block. So we're in good shape there. Now the pieces that are still left on this, I'm going to have to get water and power to it, and I'm going to have to load up fertilizer and some stuff like that. Let's look at fertilizer. Fertilizer is made from these gems right here. I guess it's called apatite and sand, just like that. And it makes just a ton of this stuff. And one of the nice things about it is that this lasts a long time. Because it makes so much and it lasts a long time, I'm just going to do it manually, pending my logistics pipes functionality eventually going in, which it will. So until then I can tolerate just loading fertilizer manually. So if I do that, I'm now getting fertilizer in the farm. Now I've got to get water to the farm, and I'm going to go ahead and use the Open Blocks transfer pipes for that, because I did have to go ahead and have some means of producing water, and I'm using this liquid transfer node from Extra Utilities to do that. It's got a world interaction upgrade, so it's producing water. Realistically, these don't use an enormous amount of water. The amount of water they use varies based on what kind of farm they've got going and what the climate is and a number of other factors. So it's a little bit complicated, but they don't really use just a huge amount, so I'm not worried about a single world interaction on some long pipes being a problem for just taking too long. Looks like this tree is going to be in the way though. I'll just go around it for now and fix it later. Not getting water yet, but it should send 8 buckets along when it finally does its search. There we go. One of the things about these Extra Utilities nodes is that they're continuously going around searching all of these pipes one block at a time until they find a destination for whatever it is. The speed that they go depends on how many speed upgrades they've got. With no speed upgrades, they can be pretty slow, especially on a large pipe network. Like I said though, I don't think that's going to be a problem. This will not use up all the water before more comes in. Alright, so the next item I've got to have to get this thing functioning is power. And part of the objective of this system is to produce power. Well, I don't have that power available right now to get it started, so I didn't bring them up. I'm stealing a couple of generators from down here, because even though they only generate a tiny amount of power, it will be enough to get this system sort of kick-started. So that's the gearbox. That's where the power input goes. Let me just plop one of these generators down right there. And I didn't bring any fuel up for it, so I'll have to go back downstairs and get some fuel. So we'll put that in here, and this shows our hydration status. It's not saying that it is out of power, so it's powered. It's sort of consuming some fertilizer. Let's go up there and plant some potatoes and see what happens. I do have some 10 seeds set aside in these boxes, and that's what I'm going to use. So I've got 8 for potatoes. I'll need to probably pull some of these back at some point so that I can produce some more seeds. But for now, I'll just put them all up here. And so these are going to grow and produce potatoes. And I'll just sort of let them go for a little bit. Now I need to move these because I'm going to start getting output over here on this farm hatch, and I need to do something with that. So let me take all of these. So let's take my dirt production here. Maybe that is going to be a problem. Well, I'll just move things a little further out than I otherwise would. So there's my, you know, so there's my output chest, and the output hopper, and the barrel. Put the dirt in there. And this still isn't really quite where I want it. One further back. Sorry, I'm just having a little trouble deciding here. Alright, we'll put that there. And that there. And that there. And finally, this hopper up here. Now for now, I don't need any special filters on this because I'm only producing potatoes. And I think that this will automatically eject. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to do something else with it. I'll have to put a wooden pipe and a redstone engine there. But for now, setting it up, I'm going to assume that it will automatically eject. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a clay pipe from Buildcraft. Normally, Buildcraft pipes, when they reach a branch point, and this is a branch point because you have a choice, stuff coming out of here has a choice of going into the hopper or further down the line. So normally, half of it will go one way and half of it will go the other way. With the clay pipe, if there's an inventory attached, it will prefer to go into the inventory. Now if it can't go in the inventory, it will proceed down the line, but it prefers the inventory, which is exactly what I want in this case. And then I'm going to put another clay insertion pipe there, and I'll put a cache right here. And I'm going to set that cache to potatoes. I'm just going to put a potato in there and lock it. The click indicated that it was locked. And then last on here, just in case something comes by that I didn't anticipate, I'm going to go ahead and put, I'm not going to put a chest there because I won't be able to open it and look. I'll put a chest right there. So potatoes should come out of here at some point. It looks like they're not going to come out on their own because it does already have some potatoes in it. And they'll go through here. The regular potatoes will go into this barrel. The poison ones will go in here, I guess, since I just noticed that there are poison potatoes. In fact, why don't I put poison potatoes in a cache too? Poison potatoes do have a use in this mod pack. They're going to be used to make rocket fuel. Actually, they're used to make hooch, and then the hooch is used to make rocket fuel. But the poison potatoes are the best resource for doing that, and so I will be using them eventually. And I'll come over here and get a poisonous potato. Put that in there. Lock it. Alright, so I'm going to have to pump stuff out of there. I did come prepared with some redstone engines against that possibility. I'm just getting a ton of stuff in here. Dump some of that stuff back in there. Alright, so wooden pipe, which extracts items from inventories, and got to power the wooden pipe, and we'll just use a redstone engine, put a lever down there to power it, and it's pumping potatoes now. So we're getting potatoes off of the farm, and because it is using an orchard configuration where we choose what to plant, I will eventually plant some carrots up here. I might plant some pumpkins. I don't know, I don't think Natura cotton is in this pack. No, but I might plant the Harvest Craft cotton if I find that I need a continuous source of a lot of string. You can do the industrial hemp from Immersive Engineering on these crop sticks. As I mentioned in the last episode, there are a few resources that require a specific block underneath, and I don't think they'll work with this. I haven't tried it yet. Once I have an opportunity in this to actually attempt that, at the moment I can't make the ores. I will try that and verify whether that works or not. But we got this one going. Now, to get the tree farm to work, I don't have enough dirt right now. But what's going to happen on that one is I'm going to put some saplings in it. And I'll put some dirt in it, and these will go in separate locations. I will also have to put fertilizer in it, so let me make some fertilizer. And this one is not going to be ready to fire up just yet because it doesn't have nearly enough dirt to cover the surface. I'll have to have enough dirt to completely cover the surface before I can fire this one up. But we are making dirt now because potatoes are going here in the composter. It's collecting its materials, or so it says. So we are getting some dirt. And so I'll have to run power over here. It's already got water. And so I will start to get saplings back. Now, saplings and wood. Once I do that, I'm going to use this, which is the Fermenter. And it will also take fertilizer. And it will produce biomass. And I don't know for sure where this will end up going. It depends on how things go, but let's just say it goes there. The biomass I will pipe into one of these biogas engines, which produces, it doesn't say here how much it produces, but I think it produces 40 or 50 per tick from biomass. So it's the equivalent of somewhere between 8 and 10 of these survivalist generators. And one farm here will probably run, it'll run a ton of them, especially if I set up some carrots over here and use them to make fruit juice from carrots. Instead of using water in this thing, I can use the fruit juice. I'll have to make a squeezer to do that, and all this stuff requires power and piping and so on. It's all quite complicated, so I guess that makes it fun if you enjoy setting up complicated systems. But once I get that going, I'll be able to run a lot of these biogas engines off of a single tree farm. By a lot, I mean probably at least 10, maybe more than that. Not to mention that some of the other products coming off of this farm can also be used to make biomass. For example, excess potatoes, they can be used to make biomass as well, which can come over here. So between episodes, I'll get this finished. It'll be all fully functional. I'll probably have to do a little rearranging on a few things, get some of these chests out of the way, and probably go ahead and set up lasers. In fact, I don't know how much time I've got in this episode. It looks like I'm getting a little bit long, so I'm going to have to cut it short. I'm not going to be able to show the lasers yet. My next step here is going to be to do Buildcraft lasers and the assembly table. And the reason for that is because you need it to progress to the next technology tier, which is industrial craft. Ordinarily, industrial craft wouldn't require those things, but in this mod pack it does. Also, it will let me set up storage drawers using a storage drawer controller, which is what I'm going to have to use to start storing all of these extra potatoes and carrots and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to have to set up a central storage system. That is going to be on the other platform over there that's empty, so I'm probably going to run a pipe all the way across there to move that stuff into that area. The other thing that I'll do with the system is I will set up, once I have the laser in place, I can make chipsets, and that'll be used to set up logistics pipes. So very soon here we're going to make a big leap forward in technology. We'll have a lot more power available. We'll start to have a lot more machines going, a lot more automated processing and crafting and moving things around. I don't consider it a problem, I should go ahead and mention this now, that I'm going to be sending stuff from all the way over here all the way over to there. And the reason I don't consider it a problem is because really it's just a one-way transfer. Things are coming out of here and going over there. The only exception to that rule will be fertilizer, and fertilizer is consumed very slowly. So there's not a whole lot of traffic between the sides, so I don't have to worry about a lot of lag from items going through pipes. I don't have to worry about delays in crafting with back and forth over a long pipe. It's fine to have it that far apart if it's that sort of one-way arrangement. So I'm going to go ahead and end the episode here. I hope you got something useful out of it, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.